Good afternoon, everyone. Looks like it's 2:30, so I'm going to call to order the Amats Technical Advisory Committee for November 5th, 2020. And Mr. Lyon, are you online?
I am, sir.
Can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. I believe Mr. Post.
Greg, somehow your audio dropped.
Can folks hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, that was kind of odd. I started talking and then I went away, which some people might enjoy. But let me start with the roll call. Mr. Post for Mr. Van Hove.
Here.
Okay, can you hear it now?
We hear you.
You can't hear me? Is
We
Mr.
do.
Post?
Yeah, here. Can you hear me? I'm here. You folks hear me? I'm here.
I can hear you, Dave. I can hear you.
I'm trying again. Okay. Can folks hear me for the third time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Van Hove, Mr. Poston for Mr. Van Hove,
Here.
Mr. Stichik,
Here.
Ms. Kilcoyne,
Present.
Mr. Lindemood.
Present.
I believe Mr. Rudolph is in for Ms. Acton,
Yes, here.
Ms. McNulty,
Here.
Mr. Linnell,
Present.
Mr. Rebuffo. Okay, Mr. Colhays.
Here.
And Mr. Alimi is excused, and Mr. Crafts, you are obviously here, so we have a quorum. Then some.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyon. Can you please do the public involvement announcement?
Sure. This is a wonderful start for my meeting. All AMATS committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is provided an opportunity to comment. We will have presentation of a business item first, and then after that, the committee will be given a chance to discuss it. Then after that, the public will be invited to come. The public is able to listen to our meeting on a Teams live format, and so there is a little delay between the two. So we'll wait a little bit for each public opportunity or opportunity for the public to comment. There we go.
Okay, thank you. We're down to approval of the agenda.
This is Bart. I move to approve.
This is Matt. I'll second.
Okay, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are asking for an addition of an informational item on the Stewart Highway O'Malley to Diamond project. I had my dates wrong. I thought they wanted to be on in December, but they say they wanted to be on in this month. So they are here online, ready to present us an informational item on this project.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Do we have any other changes to the agenda? Okay, can I get a motion for the change on that item, please?
This is Matt Stichik. I'll move to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you.
Shane, I'll second.
Can I get who seconded that, please?
Shane
Ms.
Kilcoyne.
Kilcoyne.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any objections to the amendment to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, that's approved. Do we have any, do I need to approve the agenda now too? It's fine, okay.
Good.
Okay, so we have, we're just going to say the agenda is approved. And we are moving on to the minutes. We have September 10th minutes to approve, and it looks like we have October 8th minutes to approve. I don't know if the committee wants to do it separately or we just want to do them together. I'll take a motion either way.
This is Matt Stichik. I will move to approve both the 10 September and 8 October minutes.
It's Brian Lindemuth. I'll second.
Okay, do we have any changes to the minutes? Okay, are there any objections to adopting the minutes for September 10th and October 8th? Okay, hearing none, those are approved. And we are moving down to action items, I believe. So we're on agenda item 5A, Amats Tip Amendment number 2. Mr. Lyon, can you present, please?
Yes. So we had crafted or have crafted an amendment to the tip. If you remember when we had the previous amendment up before the policy committee, you probably heard that the Academy Vanguard project was one that we thought did not require, we originally thought did not require an air quality conformity analysis, and we were incorrect in that. And so we needed to pull that from the original one to so that amendment could go forward. So this is amendment 2 that just at the start was just adding that one project into the tip. We had some projects that I just had missed that DOT had mentioned to me, and so we have a few more that were going to be added into this tip as well. However, in the last day or so, I've received some updated project figures on about 4 different projects, and if those project numbers are correct, it is basically increasing some of the costs on these projects, some by about $40 million and other ones by about 8 or 9 million each in the non-motorized category. And those are dollar figures that are problematic in terms of delivering the program. We can add smaller numbers in, but adding those large numbers in makes it challenging. And so I really would like if we could hold off on this TIP amendment for a month, and we can get some firm numbers up in the non-motorized category of 2 projects that increased it to a large degree. And I've asked the project managers to try and split those up into different phases so that we could have an opportunity to try and actually construct something through this category. As it is, they're just so large they won't fit in the TIP. And we have some issues up in the roadway category as well. I'm happy to go into great detail on that, but I am working on getting some better numbers so we can present to you next month a better understanding of where we think we can get in the next couple TIP cycles with these projects. So I would request that we table this item 5A, the amendment number 2, for a month to the December TAC meeting. And again, happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyon. We're gonna, it looks like Mr. Rebuffalo has joined us. So let the record show that it's 2:38 that Mr. Rebuffalo joined. So thank you. And any of the committee members have questions for Mr. Lyon on 5A? Okay, so the public was invited to comment. I don't think we have anyone lined up to testify as of yet. Nobody emailed us in, so we're going to just pause here for a little bit to see if. And I will be
This
right
is
back.
Jim Amundson. I'd like to add a comment on Craig's motion.
Well, we don't have a motion yet, Jim, but go ahead and.
I can't motion.
Yeah, I would counter recommend against Mr. Lyon's motion. Right now, Amendment 2 primarily is to get the Academy Vanguard project into the TIP so that we can start work on it. We've already delayed that initiation by about 2 months because it got pulled back out of the Amendment 1. This is a project that is already playing catch up to try and keep up with the larger Seward Highway O'Malley to Diamond project, and delaying the start of this project effort by another month or 2 more is going to have ongoing adverse effects at the other end when the Seward Highway project is done and the Academy Vanguard project is still waiting to get out to get to construction. And we can argue about whether another month or 2 is going to matter, but I would suggest we've already killed 2 months, and we're looking at this delay will kill it for another 2 to 3 months. And at a certain point, 2 months here, 2 months there, that's up to a couple of extra years of traffic snarling in that neighborhood because we didn't get the project going. So I would recommend we don't delay this. We can clean up the others in a follow-up Amendment 3 or an admin mod as necessary.
Okay, are there any other comments from the committee on this? Okay, I don't believe we still don't have anyone from the public who wants to testify in this item. Anyone from the policy committee that's online would like to comment on it?
Weddleton here. I think what Jim said makes sense. I mean, you know, we can't delay this anymore, and the assembly is, or the administration is working towards buying the CHA building there, Christian Health Associates too. So things are moving ahead from that side.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on 5A? Okay, we're down to the committee making Yep.
We seem to be losing our moderator's mic feed.
I'll apologize. I'm waiting for the committee to make a motion on this item.
Can I make a quick statement, Mr. Chair? Ms. Craig?
Sure. Go
So
ahead, Craig.
the concern I had related to getting the right numbers was related to adding in the other DOT projects or projects that DOT had suggested me, which were increases on Downtown Trail Connection, increase on Fish Creek Trail Connection, and increases on Fireweed Lane and Spenard Road. If we don't add those to these TIP and all we're talking about is the addition of the Academy Vanguard, you know, we have that number obviously, and we're ready for that. So if we weren't to add these other projects, then you know that would take away some of my concern. And yes, we could start another amendment. It would seem strange that we'd have two amendments going at the same time, but you know that's not really, it's not my issue, I guess. That's a problem for another day. I was trying to accommodate the projects that had slipped out and wanted to, DOT planning had wanted to add in. You know, again, with Academy Vanguard, what we're talking about is the dollar figure added into this tip, which, you know, in this tip, it's only includes the funding for the design phase of it. It still includes another, give or take, $20 million. That would probably be somewhere in the next tip that is going to be a challenge when you add in the idea of Mountain Air at 13 million and Spenard Road at about 40 million and the increased Fireweed number, which is about 50 million. You don't need to be good at math to realize there's not enough room for all those projects in here. Mountain Air, Spenard, Fireweed, and Academy. So it's pushing off the problem for a bit. You know, this project, Academy Vanguard, I understand it's important, but we haven't spent any federal funds on it yet, so we haven't. I mean, DOT may have been doing some stuff, but they haven't been using these or Amats federal funds for it. So I'm just trying to taking out the additions for the Downtown Trail and the Fish Creek Trail would make this particular amendment easier to go, and we could cross the bridge when we come to it, but it still doesn't upset or change the challenge of adding Academy Vanguard into the next tip or the funding for construction, et cetera, into the next tip. So I will now be quiet.
Thank you, Mr. Line. Are there any more questions for Mr. Line or any comments on 5A? Okay, thank you. We're still waiting on a motion from the committee members on the 5A.
So this is Matt Stichik. Would it make sense to table this issue for a special meeting in 1 week? Could that still keep us on timeline with the policy committee to resolve this issue with the additional dollar figure amendments?
This is Craig. I don't know how quickly I will get information from project managers on those. So my guess is that's a little bit of a tight time frame to get it. And it would have to be in a week because we post a week prior to the meeting. So I think that would be a bit of a challenge. I think the policy committee or the technical advisory committee should either say you want to have all of the stuff in together and hold it off for a month, or just say we want to move forward with just the amendment as it's posted with just Academy Vanguard and go for it now.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions for Mr. Line on this?
Being the guy that most of the folks work for me, it's going to be 2 to 3 months before a couple of those numbers are going to be nailed down, not least of which because I've already sent 2 of them back to the drawing board on scopes that are more consistent with the numbers that were originally put forward. I think waiting for those numbers to finally catch up is going to delay this thing into sometime in the February or March timeframe. That's why I'm concerned.
Okay, any other comments, questions on 5A? Okay, we're still waiting for a motion from a committee member on this item.
Okay, this is Matt Stichik. I will move to recommend release of tip amendment number 2 as drafted, or as presented to us for recommendation to the policy committee for 30-day public release.
Thank you.
I'll second.
This is John Linnell. I'll second.
Oh, I heard Kent jump in there before you, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Colhayes. Okay, any discussion on the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, is there any objection to the motion's approval?
Actually, I have a question if I could.
Okay.
David
Go ahead.
Post. Yeah.
Post.
You know, I was curious about the Amats safety plan. We're throwing $250,000 in there, $250,000. I guess I'm just wondering if folks can elaborate, and that's a new project, and so that's included in this amendment, if I'm correct. I'm just wondering if folks can kind of go ahead and provide a little bit more detail on what it is that they're trying to go ahead and do here. I mean, I know that we're trying to reduce fatalities and serious injuries, you know, like it says, but how is this different from some of the other planning efforts that we've done, or a highway safety improvement program?
So, Mr. Chair, this is Craig. This is a project that is, it's been recommended in not only Vision Zero, but it's been talked about in our certification previously. And a lot of MPOs around the country, a lot of cities, a lot of states do a safety plan, which is really a comprehensive effort to look at, you know, not just problem intersections. You know, HSIP, my understanding is it kind of does spot improvements at intersections and doesn't usually harness a bunch of money, but this would be or as much money, but this would be a comprehensive safety plan for the whole AMATS planning area to come up with recommendations and, you know, through a combination of HSIP funds and not that AMATS can dictate how they're funding, but we could come up with some suggestions if they want to use them, and then look at things that would help meet our performance measures and the safety targets that we have for AMATS. So it is it's something that we've been thinking about for a long time to do. So that hopefully that will give some insight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Line. Is there more discussion on the motion? Okay, are there any objections to the motion's approval? Okay, hearing none, that motion's been approved. Okay, thank you, everyone. We are moving on to agenda item 5B, the Amats Tip Narrative. Craig, can you please present?
Sure. So we have the approved tip tables, and those were approved in the 2018 timeframe for this current 2019 to 22 tip. The tables should have an accompanying narrative that goes with it, and that's what's before you today. It talks about the process that we use to adopt this tip. It kind of talks, it's just, again, it's a narrative and then not just plain tables. It is something that was discussed and is a corrective action in the last certification, needing a narrative. Basically, for the reason that Aaron was very, very busy with the MTP, as was I, we just didn't get a chance to get this thing done earlier. So the tables are what allow us to do the funding, but the narrative is part of what the package should be to meet the guidelines that the feds want. So FHWA included it in our last certification as corrective action. This is the narrative. We've already approved the tables, and we're just asking you to recommend to the policy committee to approve what we have before you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Any questions or comments from the committee on this item?
This is Dave Post again. I have a question, if I could.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Post.
It looks like that's page 4. Maybe you could scroll up to page 4. The 2 pie charts there. It's a comment. This apparently is a pie chart showing the 1.4 billion that's in the 2019 to 2022 tip. And on that first pie chart, figure 1.1, funding by source, it lists federal DOT. And I'm a little bit confused because federal DOT, US DOT consists of FHWA, which is federal AMATs, and FTA as well. Basically includes all the federal funds here. So what are we actually saying when we say federal DOT?
Aaron, do you have an answer for exactly how you broke those out?
Yes, this is Aaron, Amats Senior Planner. It's the federal money that goes through DOT that DOT has direct say and control over. So I broke it out: federal that is DOT specific, federal that is AMAT specific, and federal that is FTA specific. If those make you uncomfortable or are confusing, we can easily change them to something that makes a little more sense. But I was just trying to show that there is a pot of funding in our, or there's funding in our TIP that is DOT specific federal funding. Alaska DOT specific federal funding.
Through the chair, if I could, it was just a little confusing to me because there's also US DOT as well as an Alaska DOT. So it might be just easiest for explanatory purposes to go ahead and say federal slash AK DOT and PF. That might be just a little bit more explicit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Post. Any other questions or comments on this?
Again, David Post through the chair, and I hate to take up everyone's time here, but I'm looking at that first pie chart too. It has 13% state funding. Is that meant to be 13% non-federal match? Because some of the non-federal match comes from the municipality of Anchorage, I believe, not just the state.
No, David, this is Aaron again. All the match is already included in the amounts that we show. That state funding is funding for specific projects that's state-only funding. I'll have to look at the tip, but in one of our back tables, you can actually see that there's state GF funding towards specific projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? Any other questions or comments? Okay, the public was invited to comment by notifying us. Do we have anybody wanting to know?
No
Okay.
one emailed in, but we'll need to give 45 seconds for people on Teams Live.
Okay, so we didn't get any emails for public comment on this, but we're going to pause here for just in case someone online wants to comment. So I'll let you know when I get the okay to go forward. All right, thank you all for waiting. There is quite a delay between the live and what's being posted, so we don't have anyone to comment. Is there anybody from the policy committee that would like to comment on this one? on 5B?
Not from Weddleton.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what is the will of the committee on this item then?
This is Matt Stitchick. I will move to recommend forwarding for approval the Amats Tip Narrative with any modifications that may make sense for clarity, as discussed previously.
This is Michelle McNulty. I second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this from the committee? Okay, are there any objections to approving the motion? Okay, hearing none, that motion is approved. Thank you. And we're moving on to agenda item 5C, the Seward Highway to Glen Highway PEL resolution. Craig, can you please present?
Sure. We had a member of the policy committee ask for this resolution to be brought up at the policy committee meeting last month. So we added it to the agenda and took it before the policy committee, and they asked if the TAC had an opportunity to look at it and give thoughts or comments. And so they asked, since it did not get to the TAC first, they asked that it go to the TAC. So it's here before you today. And Mr. Weddleton is online if he would like to speak on it, but it relates to the Seward Highway to Glen Highway PEL. It's their effort, not staff effort, so I'm not really familiar on it. There is a white paper that was sent around as well from DOT planning, which I sent and shared before. I can send again, of course, but that's what I know.
Thank you, Craig. Mr. Weddleton, do you want to comment on this right now?
Yeah, I think the bigger picture is that the PEL is a good process, and we saw that at the Midtown Congestion Relief thing, and people are comfortable with it. But apparently a PEL is not required to come up with a preferred route, and without a preferred route, particularly for this part of town, then the buildings in the area remain in this horrible purgatory where people can't sell them, won't buy them, are not interested in improving them because they may be right in the route of this road. So the idea here is to do a full EIS, kind of concurrent with the PEL or as part of it, or I don't know the technical procedure there, but because an EIS would, the goal would be this is the route, choose a route so that we get some progress there, because this is, the area is a blight and it's going to get worse if we don't get on this. And I understand it also, the EIS, with the PEL, it can sit on the shelf for a while, and EIS kind of commits us to, let's get something done and start making progress on this. And, even if it's something that's phased over time, so it's in bites that we can afford, it would at least give the building owners, property owners, and the neighbors and, public in the area, something they know is going to happen and they can plan on it. So that's the main goal here.
Thank you, Mr. Weddleton. Any questions or comments from the committee on this item?
Yeah, this is Steve Rebuffo. Just grammatical error on line 3. Linkages needs an N.
Good catch.
Yeah, but aside from
that's likeages. We really like it.
Oh, okay. Is that what you were going for? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
In principle, I think this is a good idea for what it's worth.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments from the committee?
Dave Post here, if I could. I have a question too. It's a resolution recommending that this EIS be added to the TIP. Would this be Amats funded, or would you be looking to the state to go ahead and fund this?
Is that to me, Weddleton?
Sure. Well, either Craig or Mr. Welton, could you jump in there, please?
I can speak to it. The RFP for the PEL is already out there, and it actually has a line in there that says this may evolve. I forget the exact wording. It might be in here somewhere, but that this may involve an EIS. So it's actually the flexibility for this is already in the RFP that's out there. So presumably with state money, it's funded the PEL.
Well, actually, the PEL is being funded with AMAT's funding to the tune of about $5 million. And it's going to take $5 million just to pay for the PEL based on the latest negotiations. This is Jim Amundson with the DOT. So Dave's question is really getting to the point of what additional funding needs to be brought to the table to even entertain initiating or advancing the PEL from just a PEL that's going to cost $5 million to turn it into an EIS that's going to come in at somewhere between $10 and $15 million just for the EIS.
Yeah, well, that's good information. Thank you, Jim. We send this here for that kind of stuff. My understanding was different, and that the PEL was not taking all of the $5 million. So how new is that information? And is that something you could send out?
That's not new at all. The original estimate for the PEL was we'd need $5 million. The negotiations have been on, the selection process and the rest of it have been ongoing. But the original estimate said right up front it was going to be about $5 million to perform a PEL. Nobody asked for or has requested what it was going to cost us to do a full-on EIS, but if they had, the number is about 3 to 4 times as much. And the challenge there is, if we're initiating an EIS, as you pointed out, one of the things that goes with that is an expectation that the EIS is the first step in an actual full-on project that's going to go to construction within a 10 or 20-year time window. And right now, Amats' TIP doesn't have anywhere near enough funds available to entertain the size of project that it would actually take to be addressing the highway-to-highway connection. The early swags are somewhere in the $500 million range to actually do a connection between the Glen and the Seward Highway. Amats doesn't have that kind of money to advance it, which is why initiating an EIS at this time with Amats funding with no subsequent ability to fund a follow-on actual project is why we've been recommending all along to stick with just a PEL, because then it would give us the ability to come up with some bite-sized projects. It also would provide a level of surety once we have a consensus on what the preferred alternatives or what alternatives would be competing to be the preferred alternative, would help provide the surety that John's asking for the community that's currently suffering from the delays of uncertainty that I absolutely agree with them have been a problem since the last EIS got killed about 8 years ago.
So, Mr. Chair, can I pursue this a bit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jim, I appreciate that. So is there a way to break the project out so that it could even span 20 years or something to meet that timeline? Because I do understand that the EIS means you've got kind of some deadlines, but could it break it out and say we do this piece, maybe into 4 pieces or who knows, something like that, 4 phases?
The AMAT's total allocation each year is under $30 million a year. You're talking about the smallest, you're talking about spending 15 years of AMAT's budget to be realistically looking at that project. which is why having AMAT's money pay for the pill, followed by an EIS that gets paid for out of the state STIP, which has a $500 million in round numbers available on any given year, is a lot more viable approach. We'll still end up having to break it into 3 to 5 pieces, but at least the pieces would be such that it wouldn't eat 3 years of allocation for just a single bite.
Okay, thank you. So one more, if I could, Chair?
Yes, go right
If
ahead.
I'm using up time, you can give me the hook. That's fine. Is there a way for a PEL to I don't know if you've already done the RFP and chosen someone, but a way to define the preferred route through a PEL?
That's actually what the PEL is supposed to be doing, John, is to help eliminate a number of the potential alternatives before you advance anything forward as an actual project and an environmental document, so that you can, instead of having to look at a spaghetti strand of options, you have it down to 3 or 4 options before you even start, which brings the price of the environmental document down exponentially. But it also means that in some cases, it will help us identify 1 or 2 of those smaller projects that might well be something that AMATs could pick up between now and then that wouldn't even require an EA or an EIS. Some of them might be doable with the CE. And that's what the PEL is. The key is the PEL is to get a community consensus on what alternatives are they willing to entertain, what alternatives fall into the common sense box if these are options we should actually be entertaining to move forward. And while it doesn't generate a preferred alternative, it does come up with a consensus on what that preferred alternative is likely to look at like. And that does a lot to get the community behind it, which is what is going to help us keep moving forward with the funding later. At least that's the concept of what a PEL does for us.
Okay, well, this is helpful. This is why we sent it to you guys. Okay, well, that's useful to me. So what do we do with the policy committee? Could, if this were sent back with those comments that Jim made, or Jim come to the next PC meeting to discuss it, that might be the way forward, and we'll continue to kind of look at this. Thanks.
I was at the last one, but they told me to sit down and shut up until it had come back through the TAC meeting first.
Easy.
I never say that. I would never do
No,
that.
you did, but my boss did.
And that's why they offered to have a separate meeting with the TAC and the PC to discuss this that didn't get any response when Craig put it out.
Oh, a joint meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't recall that. So, okay, I apologize if I missed that.
We can still have that if you want.
I would, what might be more useful is to just bring it up at the next meeting. I mean, this went to TAC. You can discuss it and send it back to the policy committee with a recommendation that Jim Adamson talked to us. And then, and I'll talk to some people that I've been working with on it too, who are really more knowledgeable. I was hoping they'd be here today. And then, I mean, that's a good forum, I think, for the discussion. And it's not something that has to be done in November or December, I don't think. So we have time to do that. Would that work for Craig?
It's whatever you folks want. I'll schedule a meeting or work session. They're online, so they're a bit easier now. I'll do it whenever you want.
I'll be happy to be available.
I would recommend a work session instead of sending it back to the policy committee, because of the way it sits now, this resolution isn't really viable. So I think a work session is more appropriate than sending it back to policy.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here real quick. I believe we have Ms. Zalatel online that has a question. Can we go ahead and, is that a text message?
No, you can
Ms. Zalatel, are you on on the.
Yes, Mr. Chair, is it okay if I ask a question or two?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm trying to reconcile this description we just received from the state of how this process is going to play out with how the process for the Midtown congestion relief played out, because they are two related projects in a way. It feels like this process turns the other one on its head, because that one issued a PEL and it is definitely into the EIS phase for at least one of the projects. So I'm a little bit curious, because the dollar amount on that other project was significant as well, over $500 million, I believe. So I'm just trying to reconcile or make sure that the processes are consistent.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Amundsen, would you care to respond on this?
I would be happy to. The earlier effort for Midtown congestion relief, the results of that PEL, in fact, did exactly what we're talking about doing again with this PEL effort, which is it went through, got a community consensus on what potential preferred alternatives should look like. And we're now breaking off the first of those pieces of that larger overall concept, and that piece for at 36th Avenue is what is currently advancing forward into an environmental document. And in fact, it won't be an EIS for that environmental document. It's probably going to be either a CE or an EA, depending on what the final decision is out of the nice folks at headquarters. But it's got potential to be a CE. And that was the first piece of the total of about $500 million worth of improvements that will be required, will be driven by the results of that PEL.
May I ask a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Okay, great. So if I understand incorrectly, then your hope out of this PEL is to find potential preferred alternatives or designs, and then what may be identified, particularly perhaps at intersections, is discrete projects that are standalone, but that would potentially work within the more overall concept.
That's correct. The overall Midtown congestion relief came up with an overall concept that had community consensus. And then within that, we were able to identify discrete segments of work with unique, independent utility. And each of those are then able to be advanced as an individual project, and yet still be within that overarching concept that we have a community consensus is the right path forward. And we'll be slowly biting off those pieces as we go forward. And arguably the PEL for the Seward to the Glen connection would be generating similar overall consensus on the ultimate concept to move forward with, and then looking to generate a series of discrete pieces to start trying to advance forward. Some of those pieces we are hoping will be of a size that we'll be able to cover it with as part of AMATS's budget. Some of the pieces I fully expect are going to be beyond what AMATS will be able to afford with their budget, at which point we'll break the pieces out and they will then compete for inclusion in the state STIP for the state federal piece instead of coming through AMATS. But that's our expectation and hope.
Okay, thank you. And if I may chime in, I would love a work session, because I have about 10 other questions, because I think the PEL process and how it interacts with EIS or EA, or how it rolls out from the PEL, and what does community consensus mean, and a lot of those things are key pieces to understanding and communicating, particularly with constituents in the community, about how all of this interplays. And frankly, I still have a lot of questions about it generally in the process, and then how it works for this particular project. Thanks for giving me the time to ask my questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Emerson. Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee or policy members online? Okay, the public was invited to comment by notifying us by email, and I don't think we have anyone.
No, no.
No, by email. We're going to pause again on Teams Live here because we have a delay. So we will pause a few seconds and I'll let you know when we can get started again. Thank you. Okay, I got the thumbs up, and it doesn't look like we have any comments from the public on this item. What is the will of the committee on agenda item 5C?
This is John Linnell. I recommend we table this item and have Craig schedule a work session with the policy committee and the TAC and other members of organizations as needed.
I'll second.
Okay, I didn't catch who seconded it.
Yes, Steve Rebuffo.
Thank you, Steve.
You bet.
All right, any discussion from the committee on this motion? Okay, are there any objections to approving the motion? All right, hearing none, that motion is approved. And we are down to project plan updates. Mr. Lyon.
Yes, Seward Highway, O'Malley Road to Diamond Boulevard project. There are a host of folks online to share that. I'm not sure who's going to start, but someone there will start and will share the screen so they can give us their information. Is that Sean Paskey? Shot in the dark?
Mr. Baskey, are you there?
Yep, I just got to unmute like 5 times to get out.
Please go ahead and thank you.
Yeah, thank you to the committee for allowing us the time to share on the project. So quick update on where we're at. So we just completed the 95% review for the project. We've been to the committee and a number of the other AMATS committees over time, sharing on a number of different things. And we figured it was a good opportunity to update on a large project that impacts the community at large. So thanks for the time. I'm not going to go over all of the reasons why the project is what it is, but there's a number of things we're trying to address: capacity issues, safety issues, connectivity issues along the corridor. But when it gets down to the major scope items, I can kind of basically take you through the corridor. So we've got O'Malley here shown, and as we travel north or along the page here, we continue along and we open up to 6 lanes, which will continue that 6-lane section that got us from Dowling to Diamond and north. And as we move along, then we've got the new interchange at Scooter and Academy. Right now, there's currently an off-ramp that takes us over to the old Seward Highway and business area for off to the west. So grade separated interchange there. And then it takes us over to Diamond with some slight modifications to the interchange there. In previous presentations, we talked about potentially pushing a diverging Diamond interchange into the Diamond interchange. Since then, we've looked at some of the impacts. There's major utility corridors going through there that would have increased cost estimates. We looked at the overall impact of maybe delaying this the future, for future improvements to the interchange, and we think we've reached a decent level of service over the design life of the next 10 to 15 years, and so we'll delay redoing the interchange here, but recognizing that we do have a number of crashes to the active transportation community. We've had a number of crashes for bicyclists and pedestrians trying to get through the Diamond intersection, and so we're putting in a refuge space for them. We've run modeling through here, and we can pass all the vehicles through. You'll notice that we only have one right turn lane as you go through there. We've talked with Muni traffic, DOT traffic. We pass things through the Alaska Trucking Association, make sure that they didn't have any overwhelming concerns in the area. Previous concerns with moving away from the diverging Diamond interchange that alleviates some of the concerns that we heard from our first responders here at the fire station just to the north. And so we will be passing that traffic straight through the intersection like it is today. Beyond that, we've got a multitude of additional improvements that we've got going on the frontage roads. We're adding bike lanes similar to what we did on the northern sections of the same highway. So we've got bike lanes, we've got pathways and sidewalks, depending on availability of right-of-way and other things. Some of them are separated, some of them are not. So on the frontage road, you can see a complete system going through there. That'll connect up into the O'Malley. So that green stripe right there is a bike lane. On the west side of the highway, you'll see on that orange strip, there's already a pathway on that side, so we'll be reconstructing that and relocating it to make room for the frontage road for this short section along Homer Drive. Operationally, if you wanted to get onto the highway from Diamond, heading southbound, you'll have to get on the frontage road, Homer Drive, pass through the roundabout, and then continue on to get onto the highway. We fielded questions about that previously, but basically you just don't have enough room in between Scooter and Academy and the Diamond to have both operations on and off. And so trying to make sure to alleviate some of the congestion that we've got at Diamond, O'Malley, and other locations, pushing that off ramp is the preferred alternative. The roundabout interchange that'll be added to Scooter and Academy. We've got in a number of quadrants at each of these interchanges, we've got sedimentation ponds to take care of detention and sediment ponds to take care of the stormwater. That way we're complying with all of our MS4 permits. And again, at the O'Malley interchange, we've got additional sedimentation and detention ponds. And the big change, of course, at this interchange, at the O'Malley interchange, would be the diverging Diamond interchange. You'll note that at the diverging Diamond interchange, we're taking the pedestrians and bicyclists and passing them through to the center and then back to the outsides. It's typically what you would do at a diverging Diamond interchange, and so not atypical at all. Beyond that, currently we're at 95%. We are still working on acquiring all the needed right-of-way, working on utility agreements and other things. Right now, I believe that we're shown in 2023 in the STIP. So we're projected to be done with the design here sometime in the next year. We went through the 95% design, passed it over to the municipality of Anchorage for all of their comments. We passed it over to all of the community councils in the area. and we're visiting with all of them. We've received some comments and are responding to those. But outside of that, generally we're being well received by the community, you know, and are addressing a number of the issues that they've identified over the past many years. We've got we will have a presence at the transportation fair here on the 18th, so just a reminder for everybody to attend that. We've got a website with all of our information, as well as all of the plans from the 95% review that are available on there for the public. I think at previous meetings we had talked about a number of other things, but I think we responded to most of those other questions and comments. We felt it was a good opportunity to come in and talk to you guys. We met with the Freight Advisory Committee yesterday, and they had some great comments that we need to check in and make sure that we can accommodate some of their large overweight vehicles at the O'Malley interchange. But outside of that, we haven't heard anything earth-shattering that we need to go back to the drawing board on. So we've got our team here to answer any questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baskey. Are there any comments or questions on this project update? Okay, do we have anybody from the public that?
We're just asking, so we need to give them a few minutes.
Okay, we're going to pause just a few seconds here to see if anybody from the public has any questions on this item due to our delay again. I apologize. Okay, I got the thumbs up, no questions. Thank you, Mr. Baskey. Craig, thank you. Craig, do we have any other project, or does anybody have any other project or plan updates, Dave?
Not that I know of.
Okay, we are moving on to general information updates. Do we have any general information updates?
So the only general information update I would like to share is that many folks worked with Vivian Underwood for many, many years as our senior planner who managed the MTP, etc. She retired at the end of April, and we have filled her position finally. We added Christine Schutte, who folks are probably very familiar with from working over at Transit. She was I don't know the exact title over there, but I believe she was a transit planner over there working with them. You may have seen her handiwork in their report card and their transit on the move stuff. So we're very fortunate to have her. She is coming over and will be taking over Aaron's position as the public involvement coordinator. And Aaron, of course, will be moving to do the MTP stuff that Vivian had been doing, among other things. So she will be running the meetings here soon. She's been doing this one today and helped with the freight committee yesterday, but we're very fortunate to have her on board as our new senior planner.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Now the floor is open for any comments from the committee. Do you have anybody from the committee that wants to make a comment?
Yeah, this is Steve Rebuffo. I have something I can share.
Go ahead, Mr. Rebuffo. Thank you.
Okay, I'll either demonstrate how bad I am at this or it'll work. Okay, can everybody see?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Petroleum Cement Terminal circa last Saturday. We're just about finished with the phase 1 work that's going to happen this summer. There's some little orange squares that you can see out there on the platform in the water. That's preparing the surface for what's going to be the last couple of big concrete pours to finish the topping level on the facility. That crane is sitting on a temporary trestle that was built for the purposes of construction and setting the piling in the water. What it's doing now is working its way back to shore, dismantling that temporary trestle. So before we get to the end of November, that won't be there anymore, and all that will be left is the permanent platform and the permanent trestle that will come back next summer and put all the appurtenances on, so we can do a ribbon cutting about this time next year and have our first big brand new facility down here at the port. So we're pretty excited about this. Pacific Pilot Marine did an outstanding job to recover from getting started about a month late and still stay on schedule and still stay on budget. And they were the winners of the phase 2 work. So we'll see them back with their big crane again next summer to do all the mooring dolphins and catwalk placements and facility constructions that have to go on the platform. So I don't know the last time anybody got a look at what was going on down here, but I thought I'd share a picture and let you see where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Rebuffo. It looks like you have a couple requests for your photo in the chat.
Do they want them autographed or just not my picture? You want that picture, right?
Yeah. Any other comments from the committee?
That's a great picture.
Okay, thank you all for participating. Meeting's adjourned. What time do we have?
3:34.
At 3:34. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.